Okay, nope, I'm gonna start that over. Today's topic encompasses a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to try my best to answer them as concisely as possible, basically by going through the timeline of my coming out stories and how I did that with each different group of people involved. I came out initially to my partner. I can't remember if I did it over text or in person, but I just know that the reaction was fine. Obviously things went well because now we're married and everything's great and I love him forever. My second coming out was to my parents. I sat them down in our backyard around a fire in August of 2016, and I basically told them that all of the things that I had felt as a child that made me different from everybody else never went away, but I finally had a word to describe what was going on in my head. There were a lot of tears. We moved on. They're learning, they're growing. I'm also learning and growing, and I love my parents. My third coming out was in November 2016. I made a massive Facebook status. I wrote everything in French, then translated it and pasted it underneath in English. So it was the same thing twice in two different languages. So everyone that I knew, whether that was family or friends or people that I haven't spoken to since elementary school, basically knew that I was trans in one go, and I didn't have to worry about it after that, except I did, because isn't that what coming out is all about? It's a process for the rest of your life. It never ends. So even though I thought that would take care of everything, of course it didn't, and there are still people that I run into who never saw that, who don't know, that I still have to come out to, which brings me to my job. My next big coming out was when I was job hunting, and when I first started I was just coming out in interviews. Whoever was interviewing me, I told them at the end when they're like, do you have any questions? I was like, I don't have a question, but I do have something to tell you. I'm trans. And I would say that in every interview except the job that I actually ended up getting. And the job that I ended up getting was with a company that I have worked with for a long time and that have known me for a really long time. And I never really got an interview per se, so it was mostly just like, hey, this person is leaving, do you want their job? And I was like, yes, and they hired me. So I came out to them in an email after they hired me, and I was like, just so you know, this is happening, and you have to respect that. And they were kind of like, okay. They didn't really care. I was a little bit worried because some of the people that I worked with when I first started were not transphobic, but had said some questionable things in the past that worried me, but it turned out to be okay. There is one person who still misgenders me all the time, but this person is going to be leaving in a few months, and the person replacing them is someone who genders me properly and who knows and loves me, so that's fine. But in between that, when I first came out on Facebook, I was still in the first semester of my last year in university, and at that point, I was not really friends with anyone. Like I never really made any friends in university, so I didn't really do a coming out at school except in my second semester of my last year, at which point I was in a term-long group project, and I was spending at least 8 hours with these same people every week, and it was getting harder and harder not to come out to them because I was being misgendered all the time in these projects, and I was sick of it. So I sent a message to the group chat and I was like, here's what's happening, and everyone was chill about it, but then kept misgendering me anyways. It's okay, I dropped out and I never have to see any of them again, so that's great. When I started testosterone, I made a post about it on Facebook. I took a selfie with my little androgel bottle and I was like, yay, I started tea, and everyone was pretty cool about it. A lot of people had some questions about what that would mean and kind of the implications of hormone replacement therapy, which is part of the reason I made that video that I talked about last week. And I told my work also, I told one of my colleagues at work that I had started testosterone, and she kind of didn't know. She was like, is that even safe? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's totally fine. I'm less nervous about telling people that I've started testosterone because if I'm telling them, there's a really good chance that they already know that I'm trans. So it's less scary, but definitely coming out, I usually do it by text, by email, or online. I find that a lot easier because I don't have to deal with their immediate reaction to my coming out, and it gives me more time to process what I've said, choose my words wisely, and just like not think about it for a little bit, especially if their reaction is negative. I think I only came out to my parents in person, really, of everybody that I've come out to, and I've been out for over a year now. I think it's pretty obvious that it intimidates me, and it really does. I hate coming out. I hate it. I hate it. I wish I never had to do it, but I do. One day I'll pass, and maybe I will be able to be stealth, and I won't have to tell people that I'm trans, which would be really nice. But I am never hiding the fact that I'm trans because I want to be an advocate for the community. I don't want anyone to go through the same feelings I did growing up, so it is not a secret that I'm trans, and that will probably mean that I will have to come out to people if I'm ever trying to defend the community. So that's that. Another weird thing about where I work is that I work in a building that's essentially a community center for Francophone organizations in the city, which means that I'm working with a lot of people who have known me for almost my entire life because my mom did a lot of volunteer work when we were growing up. So I often run into people or see people that I haven't seen since early childhood in my building, and that can be hard because a lot of those people aren't keeping up with me on Facebook and don't know that I'm trans, and it makes using the bathrooms at my work really difficult. So I always use the single stall bathrooms that are still gendered. I'm writing a letter to the building manager asking if he can make them gender neutral because there's no reason for them to be gendered, but the multi-stall bathrooms on the main floor of my work, I never use them because I'm so scared that I'm going to use the men's washroom one day and run into someone who hasn't seen me in ages and just wonders why I'm there, and then I have to come out to them in a moment where I'm not ready and it's unexpected and it becomes awkward, and it becomes awkward for them and it's awkward for me, so I never want to be in that situation. One of my coworkers still introduces me to people that we work with in the building as she, even though she knows that I'm trans and that those are not pronouns, and so now I have to come out to people who have never even met me because my coworker misgendered me when she was introducing me. So that is a nightmare, but for the most part, like I said, for the most part it's okay because I know that she's trying. I hate it. I hate coming out. Wow. I think that pretty much covers everything that I had to talk about. I know that I marathoned through that as quickly as I possibly could. As far as updates go for me, the day that this is uploaded is my 5th week on testosterone. I still haven't noticed any changes. I do have an appointment for blood work next week to see where my T levels are at, and then a few weeks after that I will have an appointment with my endocrinologist to see if my dose needs to be brought up, brought down. I don't know what exactly that appointment entails, probably to see if I'm still okay being on testosterone, which obviously I am. But yeah, I haven't noticed anything. It's still early. Metaphorically, I am a testosterone infant, fresh out of the testosterone womb, so I don't expect to see any changes for another few weeks, but hopefully they start coming soon because I'm starting to wonder if anything's even happening. It's all a dream, nothing's real, and I will see you next week.